Okay.
Gentlemen, I'd like to call this meeting to order, and as we begin every meeting, I would invite you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank
All
you.
right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you. Then we call the roll.
Christopher Abel.
Here.
Vic Hansen.
Present.
Matthew Phipps.
Here.
Keith Shaw.
Here.
Matthew Spalding.
Here.
Carrie Trask.
Present, yep.
Tony Bostelica.
Here. Thank you. We have one fairly broad-ranging item on the agenda. There may be times during this process where we will need to demonstrate consensus through a vote. So bear with us as we figure all this out. I will turn it all over to Patty.
Okay. Well, it's a pleasure to come back again. It seems like that week went awfully fast. I don't know if it went that quickly for you, but in addition to having an Oshkosh connection with your business manager, I now have an Oshkosh connection with your HR person. Mike replaced me as HR when I left Oshkosh to be a superintendent. So there's lots of connections. So I'm looking forward to working with you all. So on the left side of your folder is everything we're going to be going through today. If you look through it, it's 6 pages. I did 14-point print because I just know that when it gets late at night for myself, it's nice to have the larger print.
I appreciate it.
Everything that is highlighted in yellow, we need to decide tonight. But I also gave you the rest of the search process. So you're going to see what's going to be coming up, and it takes us all the way to you're doing the public announcement of who your selected candidate is. Okay? So the first thing we're going to do is I want to make sure that I've got communications right. Most of my main contact for the board is going to be Chris as your board president. However, there will be times when I will be emailing you as the entire board, similar to what I did at the end of last week, where I said, bring your calendars, those kinds of things. So every once in a while, there will be reminders or might be a little homework that I will want you to do individually and send to me or something like that to help with the search. I will be using your district email, which I have from your website, and a district contact for any other information for helping set up interviews, for helping arrange everything else is going to be Lori. And she has been fantastic so far. I have never worked with someone who's like right away has everything done. So you are very lucky to have her. The first thing that we're going to look at is your actual posting vacancies. That is on the right side of your folder. It has a green highlighted area in the middle. This is typically the posting that will go out to all the applicants that are in our school board database. And last checking, that was 565 applicants that are in our WASB database. It will go out to all 12 CISA administrators with a request for them to share it as appropriately. Some put it on their website, some send it out to the schools. It will go to the National Affiliation of Superintendent Searchers. 38 of the 50 districts belong to that, and so it ends up going out quite wide. It will also be posted on the WASB Superintendent page, on LinkedIn and Facebook pages, and at the Wisconsin School Leadership Career Center. It is then shared with 30 private college and university websites across numerous states. I want you to look at the district description because I want you to be, this is the typical kinds of information that we would have. I want you to be sure that this represents you. I pulled it from some information I got from Lori as well as from your district website. Yes, Tony.
I might just check that budget number. I think that's a little low.
The annual budget?
Yeah. What? Yeah. 81,500,000.
That's like probably from like 15 years ago.
I think it is a little low. I thought it was like,
It's like 100.
Yeah, we just bumped to 100,000 this year.
100 million.
100 million, yeah, 100 million, excuse me, not 100,000.
I got that from Ken. You got that?
Okay.
Well, let's just make sure it's correct. That's all.
Yep.
Yeah, I think there was, in the information, there was the budget and then there was an asset
Asset.
that was separate. So I'm wondering, but let's get that checked, Lori, and you can let me know whether that's accurate or not. Otherwise, then, of course, I have reference to your vision and your mission and, of course, the website. I'm assuming you want candidates to hold a Wisconsin superintendent license. If someone applies and they are in the process of it, because the whole licensing thing is interesting. So let's say that someone got their coursework completed 2 years ago. They typically don't apply for the license until they're actually going to be looking for a job. Because once you apply for the license and you get the license, you're held to the licensing requirements of doing so many different things. So it would be that they have, proof that they have applied for the license or something like that. We made the decision on Monday based on some of our other searches. We used to put the posting out and then we wouldn't open up the portal where people could actually put all their documentation until we had the brochure done. We made the decision that we are going to post them both at the same time, and when the brochure is ready, we will add it to the website. That way, we are able to get applicants right away putting their things. What we found is sometimes an applicant would put their information in, and then they'd forget that they hadn't completed everything. So we want them to do that. We will be talking about the application date, what your deadline will be when we go through the schedule of activities. So aside from checking on the amount of your budget, does it sound like this is good to go? Okay? Okay, the next thing is whether or not you want some additional sites for posting. These would be additional fees. Sometimes larger districts do utilize that, but not everybody does. So you can see there's the American Association of School Administrators and what is included there. Education Week is a national newspaper that comes out. It's online. And then there's also some that are specifically for certain demographics, like the Latin administrators and the Alliance of Black School Educators. So what is your preference?
Have we decided if we're having a national thing?
We are having a national search, but this is like if you want to target certain demographics. Yeah, your national will be through the NASS.
That's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for any extra charges. And that's how things get built up.
Okay, no extra charges? Okay, that's okay. District website presence. I will be asking the district, this has been helpful, to put a tab on your district website that says superintendent vacancy. And on that page, we will put the posting, we'll put the brochure when it's ready. If we decide to do any focus groups or surveys, all that information is going to be on your website. So I just need to know, Lori, is it that same person from CISA that I would work with, or somebody who,
I would say yes.
it would be that CISA person, okay? And then I'm assuming that if you have any internal candidates, that you are wanting them to go through the same process that all your other candidates are. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
I think so.
Okay. Okay, then, do you want to get some stakeholder feedback to determine the desired qualities for the new superintendent? So in the next page are two options that you can use to get stakeholder feedback. We talked about this a little bit last time, but I thought it would be good to give you a few more details. The focus group is when you would bring in a group of people, a group of staff members, a group of parents or community members. I sit down with them and go through 9 questions. The questions are open-ended. So they have a chance to actually share what they're thinking, their personal reflections. And we have a process that we go through so that we're able to do this rather quickly. And usually in an hour, we can accomplish that. Some districts just do focus groups. They might do a staff group. They might bring in some of their students and do a student group. They might do a parent group, or they might do a community group. Some don't do any focus groups. They just rely on this community survey. If you do focus groups, at least 3 are already built into your contract. So I could do 3 focus groups for you. That's already in your contract. The community survey is also in your contract. The community survey, though, has no open-ended questions. So it's not like, oh, you can't come to the focus group, just fill out the survey, we'll get the same information. They're a little bit different because that focus group allows people to generate their own ideas. The community survey, they'll have like a list of personal characteristics for the superintendent, and there'll be 10 of them. And they will be asked to rank 1 to 6, the top 6. Or it might say, here are the 8 specialized skills that superintendents have. Rank the top 5 skills that you feel the superintendent should have. So it's really, just looks at ranking and what kind of floats to the top is what people are interested in. So with that, do you want to do any focus groups? And if you do, what would you like to do? I'm assuming based on our conversation last time that we would do a community survey. The community survey, they do need to indicate the role that they most represent themselves with. So it's staff, it's parents, and it's community members. So they have to pick which one of those that they represent themselves. And then also you're going to have a chance as a board to give me feedback. But let's talk about the focus groups right now, what you want to do. Keith?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for this timeline too. I'm looking at this timeline and it's quite compact. Good for
Yes.
you. And that leads me to a point that I'm not sure we as a district have all the options that we would like to be afforded with all the focus groups and bring in everything from social survey and all that kind of stuff. Because I see this timeline as being like flawless. It's got to click.
Yeah, everything and I've done this before.
Right.
Everything would go out on Friday. So if you decided you were going to do a parent focus group or staff focus groups, that would typically what we do is we put together a little memo. Lori sends it out to all the staff members so they get it in their emails. I'm sure you probably have a student information system and you can contact all parents that they know. And then as far as the community, we probably would do a press release and then we direct them to that web page. So what we would like to do is maybe I can adjust it a little bit because we do have it posted. So we kind of want the community survey when it goes out to at least go over a weekend. So but what we found is when you give people 2 weeks to do a survey, the return isn't any higher. They either do it the first couple, 3-4 days, and then that's it, it's that sort of thing. So if we post on the 7th and we would do focus groups, we could do focus groups like 7th through the, what would be the 7th through the 14th, and then, you could go 7th through the 17th or something like that if you wanted to give a little more time. Typically, when I do focus groups, I just spend the day with you. If you feel you want to do a staff one before school starts, that's kind of hard sometimes, but it does help. If you want to do a staff one, some staff early birds will want to do a morning. Some staff will want to do after school, kind of depends on childcare needs and things like that. If you wanted students, typically we kind of do that over a lunch period and that sort of stuff. I can also do your admin team. I know you have a lot of schools and we could set that up. Once I'm here, it's not that much more added to the cost to just do those other groups, and there might be other places we actually save some money. So thoughts on that?
I have a question about the focus groups. What are we gonna get out of it? What are we gonna get out of it? We're gonna get a bunch of people telling us that we want.
Why don't you let Patty answer that question?
We're gonna get a bunch of people that, tell us that they want a superintendent that focuses on, getting our children learning. One that's gonna be non-biased in any type of political manner. One that gets along with the community and keeps people informed. I can tell you, I could do all the focus groups right now. I'll give it to you in 5 minutes. That's why I don't really think it's even I don't
It's
know.
really up to
My
you.
personal opinion, I would like to see, because right now, we have an interim superintendent. And I know that it's like going against an incumbent. He's already got a pretty good job application in already. I would like to see, and I guess between you guys, I would like to see an anonymous staff survey to give us our opinion on Lee. That would be my opinion, something that I would like to see. Other than that, I know we all know what the community wants. We all know I would like to hear what the teachers want. I think maybe a staff focus group, I guess.
I don't think we can treat anybody differently. I think they all have to be
If you
it has to be a
feel,
level playing field.
yeah,
I'm giving it a level.
What did you say? I didn't hear what you said. You don't feel what?
I don't think we could, single Lee out for a special.
No, but I need to get the information.
Evaluation thing from the staff. But I think my answer to your question is we get buy-in.
Right.
And I think that's really important.
But this is another thing that we're willing to spend a lot of money to get buy-in.
yeah. I just have to caution you that if you're going to talk about an individual, that's really a closed session item.
Okay, yeah, I got you.
Okay, so a focus group, if you feel as a board, you know pretty much what staff will want, what administrators would want, what parents are interested in, that we can do those questions just with you as a board. I can either do those today if we have time, we can just do those, or I can develop a survey that I send out to each of you and you answer those questions for me, if you're comfortable with that. I just finished with a district that's what they chose to do because they were on a short timeline. It's really up to you how you want to involve, because you can involve your stakeholders later on in the process as well, and that sort of thing. So up to you.
Go ahead.
Can I ask, and I should have probably asked this question last week or when we met, but I didn't want to ask it with our interim superintendent sitting here. So I guess, I apologize if I should have asked this question sooner. When I was at the state convention, I had an opportunity, Kerry was doing his best thing. He was at a bookstore and Lee was at a meeting. And I was walking around talking to CISA and eating all of their little treats.
Okay.
But in the meantime, we're talking to all these CISA representatives, the big CISAs, CISA 1, and even on our own CISA. In our own CISA, we have possibly 7 districts turnover, from what I'm told. Some have hired their assistant superintendents. Some have done a minimal search. Some have done a large search. But in our own district, we have had 7 turnovers in the superintendency. Talking to CISA 1 and CISA 2, large districts, a lot of territory, they too are seeing turnover in superintendencies. The thing that was a common denominator amongst all of that conversation was the length of your application, the length of the time of getting a qualified person. They're the ones that said that most superintendents that are looking will observe a district at least 2 or 3 times, if not look at committees. And the pool seems to be genuinely first-year people, second-year people jumping from small districts to a bigger district, to a bigger district, to a little district hopping. So my concern is Manitowoc has had 6 superintendents in the past 20 years. We've had very little consistency. Mark Swanson was the last one, but it wasn't long. I mean, he did a nice job, but we've had 6 superintendents in 20 years. If we get into this process, because in my estimation, our interim person has set a pretty good standard for an applicant.
You have to be careful.
But that's me, I'm just saying. So if we get into this process and we're interviewing people and we don't find candidates after going through this, if we stop the process.
You are in
midterm-
charge of the process the entire way.
Okay, does that change, I mean, I hate to talk dollars, but does that change
You
the,
hired us for the process.
so,
So let me give you, I worked with a district last spring that their superintendent left in April because that superintendent wanted to get back closer to a home district where their family was from. But that district didn't make the hire until March or April. So when we went into it with the board, we said, we're going to start the process. And if you feel that the candidate pool isn't what you want to go a different direction, we adjust the process at that point. So that's why you are part of the process all the way along. It's your process. I'm just helping you to facilitate it and that sort of thing. So if you make some adjustments to the process, we will plan out a process so that it typically goes the way it should go. But as we're going through and you get the applications in and whatever, there are always adjustments that we can make to that process. Because you have that option to do that.
I want to bring us back to the question of the moment.
Right.
Which is the focus group, so that we can get clarity here.
Right.
Okay? And personally, I want to say, first of all, because I'm a pragmatist, and 3 are included in the contract anyway, I'm all for having 3
Okay?
of them. I'd like to have 1 that's staff, and that means staff everywhere, whether they're teachers or administrators
Okay.
or support staff. In my opinion, they're staff.
Okay.
And that would be 1. I'd like to have a community one,
Okay.
absolutely. And these are just my 3 preferences, so everybody knows.
Okay.
And the last one would be parents.
Okay.
Or we can make it parents and students. I think students, what you're going to get are the very involved high school kids might come to that. I don't think you're going to get a lot of 3rd graders.
Yeah.
So, but, those would be the 3, and I
students
presume.
that I've typically done during their school day, and it was, the students were kind of picked by the administration to represent not just your student council leaders, but a diverse group of students.
And I think in addition to the fact that they're going to know more about what the processes that we're doing, certainly hearing from them areas where they have concern about communication or connection with the superintendent will be useful information for us a month plus from now when we're looking at those applicants to
That
choose people to
information,
continue.
that information in the community survey will help us develop a leadership profile for what Manitowoc's looking for, but it will also help you in when we get to the planning for the first interview, what questions. I'm going to have like a whole bank of questions for you to choose from. And when you see what are some of the things that have surfaced in the survey and in the focus group, that will help you with some of those questions.
are the online survey questions the same as the focus group questions?
No, the online are just where you would say, here are the 10 personal characteristics that could be a superintendent. And it usually says, assuming honesty and integrity, that they're transparent, that they're, whatever, that they're, involved in the community, different things like that. And then people rank out of those 10 or 12, their top 6. So what you get from the survey is, number 1, everyone wants someone who has strong communication skills. Okay, for the majority want this. This one way down here, it might be important, but it wasn't as important to the group that was surveyed. Okay, so you really get 2 different kinds of information.
I agree with Matt, though. I don't know that that's going to be, with all those surveys, with all those groups, would it be any different than what you've seen in the surveys?
What are we gonna get out of that?
Yeah, I agree with you.
anybody
It's
gonna
probably,
say it?
it's pretty predictable, I think.
I don't want good communication skill, or is everybody gonna say, I want good
You
communication?
want a superintendent that doesn't communicate.
Mr. Hanson.
We all know what you want.
In your experience
Right.
doing this, do you get the same type of information out of the interview process if you have groups, citizens, teachers
I'll tell you what-
interviewing? Do you understand what I mean? That rather
I'll
than
tell you what
having that.
happened in a district where we used a student group. The board was not aware that there were some student issues that were not being addressed.
Oh, yeah.
And they were not being addressed at the district level. They were things of where they had concerns. As a result, that board then chose to have 2 students on the stakeholder interview team to have student representation, and eventually, 6 months later, put 2 student reps on their school board.
I think that's very, having the stakeholders part of the interview process when the board has selected.
And we will get to that. We will get to that. It's just whether or not you want to take advantage of your 3 focus groups, or maybe you don't,
Student.
and, whatever.
We do have our student rep, yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
I guess from my seat, I kind of agree with Matt that I'm not sure how much more like you would learn going
Okay.
through, like, oh, wow, they want this. Like, I don't
Okay.
think there will be some epiphany like that, but it might be more of just having people engaged in the process that creates more buy-in. I could see that being a benefit.
It sounds like you feel you probably will get what you need from a community survey. As a board, I would suggest that we do a focus group with you as a board, and that focus group can be done this evening, and we can go through these questions, and you can give me your answers, or I can set up a survey, and I can send you out a survey with those questions, and you respond that way. What would
Survey
you
with the
prefer?
questions would be good.
Survey?
In my opinion, just because it'll be more efficient that way.
Well,
I
it
would
gives
really
you
be more
time
concerned as
to
to.
ask more, to put more thought into it, and that's,
Well, you did say the focus group more open-ended, right?
right.
That might, from the board, I think that might be better. Just-
We could, but I guess in a focus group, maybe even for the board, I would be more interested in whether or not, what your opinions are. Do we want a superintendent that's, going to concentrate on education?
So
Well, we all do.
The sur-
Okay, we all know that.
the survey that I would do especially for you as the board, if you chose not to do focus groups, there would be the regular community survey that staff, parents, and community can fill out where they just rank order items. The one I can do for the board will have open-ended questions.
Okay.
Okay, and then you would get that data, and that data will help you to be, now, because it is a survey, your surveys are going to be open records, so just keep that in mind, okay? Okay, so I will do that, so you will all get,
And that would be electronic,
that would be
so that
electronic.
we all have time to read it over, think about
Right.
your answers.
Right.
before you go to bed. Yeah,
Right.
okay.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, so focus groups, let me just capture, we got a question.
I'm in favor of focus groups for a number of reasons. And I don't want kind of the canned, like, do you want this, you want this, you want this? I want an interactive, I want this focus groups because I want interactive discussion. To come to a realization, like you said, boy, you had a focus groups and in the process discovered that were student issues that were unresponded to.
Can I share with you
Yeah.
how we run the focus group?
Yeah,
If
could
we
you?
were doing a focus group here, because we don't want to have one person dominate the discussion, I would say to Tony, okay, here's the first question. What personal characteristic should the next superintendent possess? He gives me one, or he can pass. Then I go to Matthew and I say, okay, don't repeat what Tony said. You can add to Tony's, like, I really believe this, or you can give me a new one. And we keep going around the circle until everybody's ideas are out. People can pass, we can keep going. Then we do the second question, and I start with a different person, and we go around. Because the purpose of a focus group is if people come to participate, we don't want one person dominating the discussion. And people are like, well, I didn't even get to say anything. So we try to make it as equitable as possible when we're doing that focus group.
See, I think there's a lot of different perspectives on the school system and what kind of superintendent is needed for the community. And I think that, there is. Yeah, I think there is. So I think that should be reflected at least in our thinking.
Well, and your perspectives, your different perspectives may come up with how people rank things. If they feel that communication is fine, they may not rank communication as a top.
But I'm also in favor of buy-in too, and that if they're not included, they don't feel like they're included.
I'm gonna let you guys do that.
And then I'll try to find out what the consensus is.
I kind of agree with Carrie in that, to be honest, we've been through some things the last year and a half, 2 years. And does the community have inputs and concerns about that? I mean, if you looked at the survey results from our employees, maybe they need to have some input into who we pick. Would a focus group help with that? Would a community group help with that? People were happy about the thing they had at Washington over the buildings.
Yeah.
Part of this is do we need to invite and open up so we as a board are listening to the people that have kids in the district and elect us and pay taxes? And I think it would be more than just I just want somebody who's going to do this and this and this. I think they might bring up concerns. And maybe there's value in hearing that.
Yeah,
Okay.
and right now, as I'm tallying in my head, because believe it or not, I really do listen to everybody and I tally. I've got us at about 3-3 as for supporting in-person focus groups. And we need to get clarity on this. So I want to get,
Mr. President?
Yeah,
I didn't talk though. That's 3-3.
you don't know who I'm counting.
Oh,
Go ahead.
okay, but I listened too.
I think that we have to, and I hate to be redundant, but I've done this a number of times looking for superintendents. Matt is correct. We have to understand the focus groups aren't going to say and can't say, you need to hire so-and-so. They're not person specific. They are going to say, we want a competent, qualified educator who's a good communicator, who has all the standards they need, who has ability to, you're going to get the standard input from everybody. You may get a student group that says they want the next superintendent to be really focused on secondary education. Okay, I think that the survey to the public is going to afford us, in the time frame that has been developed here, quicker feedback than focus groups. And if we want a focus group, I think her position and her idea of a focus group for the board is excellent, because I think we're going to speak for the community.
Okay. Did you want to bite at this apple?
I do want
Okay.
to bite at this apple. So I think it's very important. You guys have brought up some great points about what you'd like to see in a superintendent. However, Mr. Shaw brought up the even more important point that the candidate that you might want to see might not be available. So you have to start thinking, what will we get as a return if you do the search? And what you did say about 1 or 2 year experience or jumping jobs is quite prevalent in this. And unfortunately, I have done this process once before, and maybe that's why you're hearing a little bit of experience coming out of these two. And you've done it in different scenarios, so I'm not discrediting it. Completely saying you guys have utmost experience as well. It's just you don't know what you're going to get. You can ask for what you want to ask for. That doesn't mean that person is available to come and work here. So it is important to understand what we have before we go ask for what we think we want. That's all I will say about that.
Okay, I'm just going to take the temperature so we can move forward. Those of you who do want in-person focus groups, just signify by raising your hand.
I'd like to, can I say something real quick?
You can say anything you want.
Yeah. I mean,
Right now, that's clearly a no, so go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say, I'm open to I like the idea of the community surveys. If we just ask more open-ended questions, I think it would accomplish the same thing. Or maybe just keep a spot that's open-ended.
Okay, all right. So we do not have a prevailing wish, for your information, Patty, we do not have a prevailing wish for in-person focus groups.
Okay.
Tony has expressed an interest in some open-ended questions on the community/staff/whoever survey. Is that a possibility?
Possibility, we don't recommend it because people can hide behind a comment because it's anonymous.
I want that.
Okay.
I want them to feel free to say what they want to say without being ostracized. I want their honest opinion.
Okay, so if we looked at those focus group questions, we were to put 2 of them on the survey, what would you suggest? If you could improve one thing about the district, what is unique or special, what are the challenges, what are the selling points?
The district, not the district. I want to know about the superintendent, what they want about, what they like or what they don't like about the superintendent position. What do they want? I don't care.
Well, then what strengths or skills should the next superintendent possess?
Do we have a page with these?
Yes.
It's the options for getting stakeholder feedback.
Oh, gotcha. I just need to know which one to be looking at.
I would like an open-ended question that says, please give us any relevant information that you would like us to know.
Well, the survey will say that if people have personal information that they would like to share, to contact a board member.
Right.
The survey does say that.
Some people want to be anonymous. And even though I can profess to, I'll tell the entire school district right now, if they contact me, I'll keep it anonymous. You let me know what you want.
Okay.
And I truly will. Still, I feel people may just not trust
What if
that.
we went with what strengths and skills should the next superintendent possess?
And 3 and
4.
I think 6 is good too.
Yeah, I kind of like 6 also.
So take 3,
Yeah, I
like
like
6.
7 too.
well,
7's good, yeah. I mean,
that's a whole nother survey you guys can do.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
so let's
Thank
do
you.
3 and,
Say that
um,
again. Let's
you
do
want to
one.
do 3
Okay.
and what other one?
Why I like 6 is it gives us as a board some information on what they may be
Yeah,
wanting
exactly.
in a superintendent or somebody. I mean, if we see the same challenge from a lot of people, that might be the kind of person we should focus on. That could
Okay.
maybe solve that problem.
So maybe
I like
6 and
9.
7?
Do you?
Because I would point out that 3, I would agree with all of you who said there are things you can't predict. And I think strengths and skills
Yeah.
should the next superintendent possess, I think you can predict those.
Yeah, I think so too.
But thank you for
One
your
and two,
patience.
though.
I wanted to just clarify, you said the community survey, there would be what, 3 groups? Parent,
Staff, parents, and community.
okay, so if there would be those 3, I would like to declare that if you're a staff member, you'd be a staff member before you'd be a parent because you're being paid by the district. And it's anonymous, so it's still protecting the anonymity, but it's clarifying that they're actually,
Well, they have to choose one.
I don't like that you can choose one or the other. I like that you choose, if you're being paid by the district, you'd be considered a staff member. That's so that we can have a clear aspect of where that information is coming from. Otherwise, you could say you're a parent, and then you could almost say that that's community input or a parent's perspective, when really they're in the trenches.
Are you okay with me getting legal counsel on that?
Sure, but I also think you can put in your instructions, staff members are asked to complete this as a staff member.
Thank you. That's
Not
Yeah.
a parent or
you
community.
understand what I'm
Yeah.
getting at.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you that we should ask people to do the ballot.
Yeah, I agree. That's good. That's a good solution too. So, yeah, 3 3 is too close to 1 in a way.
So what questions do we want?
We got 1 and 2.
I like 3. 3 and 9 are both the same thing, so it's a combination of both, whatever.
I think 6 and 7 kind of rhymes with 6.
Can I offer, what if you said 3, because they've already listed some things.
Yeah,
What
okay.
strengths and skills should they possess so they can be more, and then you do, if you could improve one thing about the district, what would it be?
Okay, yeah. 3 and 7?
3 and 7. Okay,
Not the challenges one?
Well, I think if you can
Yeah,
improve
never.
one thing about the district, your challenges may come into that, where they might say.
Okay.
And then are we going to do the focus group as a board here tonight or,
That's up,
That was going to be electronic to all of us.
okay,
okay. But you will get all of these questions
Okay,
from
right.
the focus group.
so this will be electronic to the board?
Yeah,
But don't start answering them now because we have other stuff to work on.
right.
Don't do your homework during class. I hate that.
It's almost done.
Okay. The search calendar, that's the next thing.
Let you talk while I have part of my sandwich.
Patty, can you answer a question for me?
Sure.
Are we billed per hour
No, you are billed,
as we're doing it, or?
this is all part of the process. You have your set amount. I estimate how much time based on it, on what I have experienced. So sometimes our time ends up being a little bit more, and then sometimes it ends up being a little bit less. If we go over, typically it's put as a gratis. If we would go over for just a little bit, it's if you change the process. So let's say you would have decided to do some of these other postings, then that's additional cost. If you decide this is based on 2 sets of interviews, first round of interviews and finalists, you decide you want a third round of interviews, that would be an additional cost that wasn't in the original thing. Okay?
But just to clarify then, so if something happens, like, because we talked about this last meeting before we moved into this agreement, you said if some districts have internal conflicts or interests that change, we can change the process as we want, but we'd still be billed for the complete process?
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Because typically what happened with the one district that they didn't know if they would have enough candidates, they talked about then us finishing out the process by looking for an interim. We didn't need to do that because we found the person that they desired. So it's right there. Okay, so our planning
Can you
meeting
say that one more time? What happened with that district?
with that district, because it was so late, we
Uh-huh.
said if you don't have a good enough pool, then we'll look, they were determining that then they would need some help getting an interim, and then they would do the search the
Gotcha.
following year. So, okay, so the vacancy information will be posted February 7th, which would be Friday. If we can get the budget number updated tomorrow, then we can get that posted on Friday. It will be on the portal probably then on the 7th, or it would be on the 10th, because that's a little bit different process. And the district website may be a little bit later, depending on how quickly we can connect with the CISA 6 person tomorrow.
Patty, which number, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to follow, which number are you, or which section are you on here? Right?
We're on the finalize the search calendar of scheduled activities.
Model 2.
Okay, so we are not doing a focus group as an in-person focus group. We're doing the online survey. The survey, given that the district website probably won't be up until Monday, we could start the survey on the 10th and go through the 17th, which would give a little more time for Lori to get the information out to the staff, out to families and whatever, and it gives me a chance to work with Lori to draft something to put in an email with the link and everything. So, or would you prefer that we try to get it going out on Friday, give them the weekend, and then have it due on the 14th? What would you prefer?
Into 17.
17th?
Yes, 10th to 17th.
Okay, we'll put that it ends on the 17th.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, I think the timeline is
Okay. The agency brochure will then be posted after we get the information back from the surveys and we get the profile, and I'll talk a little bit later about that brochure and how it gets approved. Right now, I have the application deadline is March 7th, which is about a month from when it was posted. That's typically what we're seeing this time of year, not going any longer than that, because people who are looking
Does everybody
already.
that's leaving their job have that, have made that decision
Right.
for that?
So if we post on the 10th, though, if you have on the 7th, we post on the 10th, we're losing those 3 days, right?
Right. So
And the
we,
road-
well, it'll be posted on the 7th. The initial posting on WASB.org will be the 7th.
Okay.
We're actually gating.
And then the brochure, a candidate won't see until around February 21.
Right. But what we're finding is that a lot of them do what you heard at the conference. They're already checking out people's websites, they're reading newspapers, they're finding a lot of their information that way. The brochure just ends up being a nice piece of additional information for them as an applicant.
So if
I was just gonna say, what I found is, people that are looking at that, they're looking at that because they've made it to the screener interview, where they want more background.
Right, right.
So then March 7th is the deadline. It's about 28 days
Oh,
for
okay.
posting for our
Do you
job.
want to make it March 10th on a Monday?
I think that backs everything up, which I'm not happy about, but I see,
I was trying to go with.
I know,
with your-
28 days is just, I think, for superintendents to really weigh their looking at us as we are going to look at them. That's a very short period of time for a lot of candidates, unless you're finding different now.
I think people are looking, they're
Okay.
hopping in. They have most of their application stuff ready, except maybe the letter of interest is not ready. And if we decide later you're going to do an essay question, then they're doing that. But if they're looking, they're already, like I'm speaking to a university class next Saturday about getting their application stuff in if they're interested. So what we need to do is we need to do that first red meeting, which says review of resource guide. Let's look at when you can meet as a board, because those were just anticipating dates. So that week of March 9th and the 10th, we would need to have a board meeting, and that will probably be, most of it will be closed session.
How long typically does this meeting take?
You're going to be reviewing applications, choosing your interviewees, at least 3 hours.
Okay.
So that's probably your whole meeting, because you're going to be determining your interview questions. You're going to be choosing who you want to bring in for an interview. If you decide to have a stakeholder team part of that, which we will discuss in a little bit, we would be finalizing that as to who's on the stakeholder team. So there's quite a few things that,
What day is the 10th?
Well, the 10th is a Monday, and we have our standing meeting on the 11th. So
Yeah.
we either want to put that at the end of that week, because we're going to need time to go through those. And if that's the weekend of reading all the board stuff, which is usually quite a task,
Yeah.
not impossible. I think we're looking at the end of that week or early the next. And I understand why we want to do it as soon as possible, so that we can start setting up the, what I would call the screeners
Yeah,
for the.
typically
for the
boards-
Later that week.
like
Month.
if you end it on a Friday, at midnight that Friday, you have access to the portal and you can see the applications. And I will send you a little form you can use for you to put notes on, or you can do it in different ways. A lot of boards have done that weekend and then they meet like the next Wednesday. They take about 3-4 days for everybody to review the applications and then come into the meeting.
How many do you anticipate?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Okay.
So reviewing the applications, all of the applications from the candidates will come to us electronically. Okay, then we review If you have a rating scale for us, or do we do our own rating
You
scale for
do
that?
your own rating scale.
Okay,
When
so
we-
each person's gonna do their own rating scale for these applicants?
Yep, and typically what I ask you to do is to take notes on an individual, what are things you kind of like about that individual, whatever, and then to come in ready to say, plus, yes, this is somebody I definitely want us to talk about. No, this is somebody I don't want us to talk about, or question mark. And we go with the question marks and we go with the yeses. But we do go through every single candidate so that we get some kind of consensus.
Okay, so on the 10th, at 10th at midnight, they're done. We start looking at them Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. How long do we get to look at these interviews? Or these applications?
Until we meet.
It's until you meet. So,
That's why I'm saying we want to meet on Thursday or Friday, so we have a chance to get through them.
Yeah.
Yeah, Thursday especially. So then we all come together with our, let's pretend we get.
so you want to meet on March 13th?
Hold on.
Friday.
Either Thursday or Friday, the
I can do
Thursday.
Thursday, I can't do Friday.
Friday, okay.
March 13th, we will do the meeting then,
Good.
okay?
And then on that 13th, we all come with our own point of view for each one of these 25.
And we will end up deciding how many
60.
people you want to do first interviews with. And we're going to be talking about dates and that stuff tonight. Because when they apply, they will know when the first interview dates are. So they can't say, well, gee, I'm not available that day. They know when they apply what the dates are.
Oh,
So March 13th will be,
Time, gentlemen?
When's it gonna snow?
How long is that meeting gonna take?
It's going to snow on the 10th.
it'll be 3 hours.
Can we do like 5 o'clock, is that right?
Can everybody do 5?
sure.
And that's on a what?
Thursday.
You can do that?
Love
Yeah, okay, so 5 o'clock.
When we get this all done, I'll probably go home tonight while it's fresh in my mind, and I will put this together, and that's why Lori is here. She and I will just connect that we've got the dates, all what we said, and then a final schedule will get sent out to all of you.
Yeah.
And then she can set up the schedule, you know, putting it on your calendars and
That'll
stuff like
be a closed session?
Yeah.
most of it will be closed, depending on whether they do a stakeholder team or not, and how we determine that, but most of that will, and you will get a separate posting from me, from our attorneys on how to post that you can just put on your regular posting, how to notice it.
So it would start in open and then go
Yeah.
to close? Okay.
So then, if you are meeting on the 13th, okay, and you're deciding who you want to do, right now I have, and again, this is up to you, how you want to handle it. Some, if you only pick 5 finalists, those finalists are considered finalists and they have to be noticed. So we always encourage people to at least pick 6, because some people may be applying to your district and they haven't told their district that they're interested yet. They want to see what happens with the first interview. So some people will just make a marathon of it, and they'll start on a Saturday and they'll go from 8 in the morning until they get done. Okay? More recently, people have chosen to do 2 nights, and they will do some like 3 one night, 3 the next night, and they'll do 2 nights. I set it up right now that I am available March 25th and 27th, which a lot of other places have as their spring break, but I don't believe you do.
No, we don't. Ours is in April.
That gives us a chance to contact the individuals, let them know what the schedule is, get them set up, get everything ready. If you want to, especially with us meeting on the 13th, it would be really hard to contact an individual if they're in another state and have them make arrangements to be here on one of those dates if you did it the very next week. You have to at least give them a week in between.
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine leaving it to their preference the week following that, if they want to do this in person or virtual.
I would
Because
suggest-
unless we're actually down to finalists, this should be the group that you pick to get to your finalist from.
Right.
And making people come out who may not even make it to the finalist cut,
Yeah, I agree.
kind of.
We would assume that cost if they're coming over for overnight, that's back to us usually.
When you get to finalists,
Yeah,
you can determine.
Let's do this. Let's decide if those dates work.
Yeah.
Let's see who you end up picking as your applicants, because that's going to determine if somebody's from out of state or not. You do tend to have greater reliability in getting to know the candidate if they are in person. I mean, because we dealt with virtual interviews during COVID. And it's very difficult to feel like you really got a chance to know that candidate.
Yeah.
And I don't know that we would be, but the March 25th and 27th, so the 25th, I don't know that there would be, but that if there'd be a special board meeting, that's a Tuesday, that'd be that fourth Tuesday.
That would be our special board meeting.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I realize, but this would,
Take precedent.
yeah, it would have to.
Okay. I'm just
Yeah.
bringing
Yeah.
it to your attention.
So are you comfortable with the 25th and the 27th?
It's a Tuesday, Thursday?
Tuesday,
Yeah.
Thursday?
Okay.
Okay?
And we really don't know what we need until we know how many people we're
Right.
gonna bring in, and we don't know that until we know how many
Right.
people apply.
Yep. So then typically what happens is after you then decide who your finalists are, that's when somebody from the board will need to do some reference checks so that at the second final interview, you can bring back that information. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So let's look at then the final round of interviews. Now, you could do the final round the next week because we're telling them up front, here's when the final round is going to be.
Can we block off times for that, or do we?
We can block off times, sure.
The more notice I have, the easier it is.
But what time? Yeah, you just,
Most places, what we do, especially if you're going to do some kind of meal, is that we might have you meet from 4 to 4:30 and we start the interviews at 4:30 if you're going to do 3, because you usually have an hour interview and you have at least 15 minutes in between to kind of gather your notes and things like that, so. But if you want to do 5, we can stick with 5 and make it 5.
Yeah, I could do 4:30 if that'll be better.
You're talking the 25th and 27th?
Right.
Yeah.
4:30?
4:30.
You
And
know,
if you want lunch, you can come a little bit earlier to get that. How's that sound?
So block off 4:30, right?
Mhm.
That's what we're saying.
4:30 to,
Question mark. And so we'll know more, Lori will know more after March 13th. We'll know exactly how many we're going to interview, what the hours are going to be and stuff like that.
we'll know more when we know more.
Okay, the final round of interviews. Now, this is where I'm sure you're gonna have some discussion on this, because you know, that was last week when we talked about, I wish my phone would stop. How you wanna handle possibly 3 new school board members. And I'll repeat again, the way it's set up is that this board would do the interview for the first round and pick the finalists. And then if you wanted to, after the election, you could invite the 3 new board members to join you for the final interview. They can provide their feedback, but you are still the ones who vote because they have not been installed yet as the
yeah, they're
new
not
board.
seated until the 29th.
Right. So, but that's the way it's been handled in other districts, that kind of bridge that. And the reason why they feel it's good to have those new board members come in is because your superintendent is going to be ending up working with that team. So at least it brings some kind of connection, but they don't vote because they haven't been installed yet. It would be this board that would vote on who the superintendent is. But they at least have a chance to be in on the final interviews and give some feedback to you. So how do you want to handle that?
I have a quick question. Is it fair to assume that most of the other districts that are looking are gonna be having offers going out around that time? Or does that just totally vary based on the district and where they're at in the search?
It's where they're at in the search. We have some searches that proposals are just being asked for right now. So it's really all across. We have some that started in November, so it's really just where the boards are. You're still considered in the first round of interviews. Because once April comes and people are picked, that's when you start to see the shuffling for the second round.
So, okay, so if we get a finalist by April, we should be in good shape.
I would think so.
Yeah, I guess what I don't want to do is lose a good candidate early in the process because our process is too slow. You know what I mean?
Okay, I don't think your process is too slow.
Oh, I don't know.
I think you're,
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying if they're interviewing in other districts, right, which is possible, we're not the only district they're interviewing.
yeah, but typically, it's not going to be because the process is too slow. They're interviewing the district that they want to be at. And which district do they end up choosing? So that's why,
I don't think it was a cut on the process or especially your excellent thought out. And this is, like he said, very compact. It's well done. I don't think it was a cut on that at all. I'm on you. It's more or less, it's very reasonable to think that if there's multiple people looking for superintendents, we may miss out on one that chose to go somewhere that was a little bit more expeditious with their process. I think that's what he was saying.
yeah.
It wasn't anything.
Typically, though, if someone wants to, we always ask, are you interviewing anywhere else? And that kind of helps the board to know whether we need to kind of speed up the process.
But really, what's your answer to that? Because I guarantee you, no matter anybody, whether interviewing anywhere else or not, would say, of course I am. Because I would, as an applicant, that's just smart business.
Not all of them do.
That's just smart business. Anybody says, you know what I mean? It's just like,
Yeah.
you're selling something, like, all right, but you know, I got 3 other people coming today, I ain't got nobody. So it doesn't matter, that's just smart.
You're also looking at wanting someone, I think Keith said it, someone who's going to come into Manitowoc and they're going to make this their home. And they're not going to be moving after 1 year or 2 years. You want someone who's going to be staying longer. So you want someone who wants to become invested in your community and in your district.
Yeah, we only got one.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe we should pick more than 6.
So getting back to the
You
question
know, in the first,
about the interviews,
Right.
my thought is we will vote on that, but I think we should invite whoever wins that election in at least to be part of that. I like that.
They should have their voices heard at least.
Now, they do, right now I have April 7th. But, I do have, the election is the April 1st, right? Okay. So,
We have a board meeting, the regular board meeting is on the 8th.
on the 8th,
Well, this is something that's got to be done on a Monday or Friday because you're bringing these people in and there's a whole schmozzle. This is almost an all-day event for the people who are involved if you're doing at least 3 or 4 people.
so I do have Friday the 4th open,
Friday, the 4th of,
April.
I was thinking either the 7th or the 11th.
Yeah. I think if you're worried about losing someone, I would stick with the 7th.
yeah.
I agree.
And then that gives you a chance to the people who are elected to let them know, here's the meeting,
Monday,
it's a Monday.
before the board meeting.
Okay, let's do that.
So Monday the 7th. And then we would do the final selection that night. If by chance it goes later and you feel you need some additional time and you have your board meeting on the 8th, we could plan a closed session at either before your board meeting starts or at the end of your board meeting to make that discussion and selection. So you may want to just kind of keep that as a possible if you need to make, deliberate more. Okay?
So what time on the 7th, or is that an all-day thing?
That's an all-day thing.
Can we do, why don't we just do Friday, or is Friday not good for you guys?
Friday's always good for me.
Monday's just kind of.
Well, I was just thinking that the 7th would be the evening, would be that you would do like 3 finalists or whatever, and you would do it on Monday night.
Well, that would be better.
And then if you need to deliberate,
And then you telling me when I can be here.
The reason I said I see this as an all-day thing
It's like,
is
I won't
because,
send this out until.
is because I would expect that we're going to have a staff group that gets to interview them, where we can also have a community group that interviews them. Those people, we also have to have directors or somebody that offer them a tour
Okay, so now
so
you're-
that they can add input. And that's how it becomes a whole day
I
thing.
think
And then
so.
we need the input from those guys to help us make our decision.
okay, so then I would go with the 4th. I would go with Friday.
Friday the 4th?
Right, but it may not be when we develop the schedule for that day, it may not be that the board needs to be there the whole day.
Right.
It may come in at a certain point because the schedule will already be in place for the other.
Any idea what time that might be?
When the board comes in? Probably 4:30, or maybe not.
Let's do 4:30 again. Just so we're consistent, that'll make it easier for people. And then, of course,
But that's the whole day though also,
well,
correct?
4:30 for the board on April 8th.
The way it worked in the past is if we sat up in the morning, there were 3 interview teams, as Chris said, it was a homogeneous or a heterogeneous group of people, educators, parents, staff, and business people. So we brought in a superintendent candidate, they went to the first round, they were in it. An hour later, they went to the next group, and then the second superintendent came in, candidate, did the rounds,
Yeah.
and then the board was the last group that met with these people after that superintendent interviewed with the board, which was about 3 hours into the process. He or she went home, and then all the input from those committees came back to the board as input only, and we voted on that.
And bring Lee around and give him the tour.
So, so what we did have to keep each superintendent candidate in the loop is we had a tour guide that took our finalists around to all of the buildings in the district and looked at, stopped, chit-chatted, and then brought them back for their interview. And once they were done, they went home. So it was 3-hour process in the circular of interviews. The final hour was with the board, then they went home. So it was a half a day. We were done in a half a day.
So the board would need to be available the second.
3
half of
hours
the
into
day.
more. So we started at 8:30 in the morning. The board actively got started about 11:30.
And it would go 11:30, 12:30, 12:30, 1:30, 1:30, 2:30, and then
Boom, done.
11:30 to 2:30 you're open.
Typically put some time in between so that if it
Yeah.
goes over a little.
Yeah.
There was no talking, there was no conversation. The directors brought us the feedback from each group. They left, we discussed. There was no conversation between each candidate.
Right.
Boom.
So you think 4:30 on Friday, or you think it would be?
No, Friday, it sounds like it would be 11:30, the board would be starting.
11:30? Okay.
Could do that. It's gonna be a lot.
All right, so like block off 4 hours, you think?
That's April 4th.
That's April 4th.
Okay.
And if you decide you're gonna do that deliberation that day, while it's fresh in your mind, it may go longer than 3 hours. You may be 11:30 to 5 or something like
All
that,
right, yeah, I said we should get it done today then.
okay? Okay, we can still, as long as you have the date reserved and the general time, that will help then as we're going through. So it helps Keith with some of the information that you shared. Negotiating the contract, that really depends on how long it takes.
Yes.
And then, of course, the position and announcing it. Okay, let's go to the next thing.
Next.
The brochure will be developed. I'll be working closely. Lori already got me lots of information, and I'll be working with the gal from CISA. We don't use the contact for public relations, so I already got that. Who wants to approve the brochure before it gets posted? It can happen in two ways. You can have that Chris and Lori look at it, they give me the nod that it's okay. Or I send it out to the entire board and you get 24 hours to get back to Chris with any questions.
I trust Chris and Lori especially to,
Chris and Lori?
it's up to you guys. What do you think? You want to look at it?
I'd like to look at it.
Yeah, send it to everybody. If you
Send
don't
it
have
to
anything to
Lori in
say,
24
just don't
hours.
send anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, send it to us. We'll take a look at it. Sure. We'll make it quick.
Okay, required candidate information. Typically on the portal, they have to include their contact information, their work history. Because I think a question came up last time is, do we have to develop our own application form? No. They have to include their contact info, their work history, their education history. They have to upload their transcripts. They have to provide proof of certification or that they will be getting certification. They have to provide 3 letters of reference that they upload. They sign consent forms that they know that their references are going to be contacted, that there's going to be a background check, all of that sort of stuff, and a disclosure form. They also many times will put in there, please do not share my name unless I'm considered a finalist.
Makes sense.
That sort of thing. You can have them do an essay question. So the essay, or you can have them do more than one essay question. The essay questions, I gave you a sample of Wilmot High School's brochure, so you can kind of see the kind of information that we put. Yours will probably be have a little more with pictures in it, because you have some nice things from your website I'll be adding. So sample essay questions is in a separate sheet in your folder.
Yes, okay.
Typically, if they do essay questions, they do 1. However, you can do more. When I interviewed for my position, they had me do 3. It was a long application. But if you're concerned about people getting the application done, getting it posted, I would recommend if you do an essay question, 1. Some people will say, well, I don't know, they could use AI. But
Yeah.
if you tailor the question to be in your district, show us how you've done this in your current place of employment, or tell us how you would do it here, then they have to be a little more specific. We tell them 1 page only, because we don't want you having to read all kinds of thesis coming in, and that sort of thing. So is there a question there that you would like to use if you want to do an essay question? So maybe, Chris, you can ask if people even want an essay question to be answered.
Yeah, just show of hands, want an essay question?
I would like to see an open-ended question like that.
It does give you a chance to see their writing style and that stuff.
You can
Okay.
gauge a person's intellect by how they write.
Yeah.
My suggestion would be, name 3 major challenges that the MPSD will be facing in the near future, and how you have addressed these in your current position. That way, they're showing us they've done some research on us, and they're talking about past experience with similar problems.
If you want a good pool coming into this for your first interview, I would send something a little more generic and save that question for your
For the second one?
finalist.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Because we can give the finalist, when we select the finalist, we can say, here are some additional things, now that you know our district. We want a 90-day plan of what you're gonna do when you come in our district. That question is perfect. That's a great question to give them.
I like all these sample questions. Can you say to the candidate, choose one of these 4?
It's gonna be hard for you to compare
Yeah, that's
different
right.
candidate
Gotcha.
applications.
Then I would go with 4.
You would go with 4?
4.
Going once, going twice,
Yeah, I'd
anybody
do
else?
4.
4, okay.
Is there anything specific in that one that AI can't do? I'm concerned
Nothing that
about
AI
AI, I really
Yeah.
am, because
Well-
you can sound
You
great.
could say, in your current situation, how have you created a strong relationship with your school board, effective management team operations, that sort, in your current position? So if they're not a current superintendent, they probably still have interacted with the school board. They just aren't going to have as much as someone who's a current
Yeah, I
superintendent.
think
in
that's a
that.
good idea.
But if you say in your current position, you're asking them to talk about some of their experiences.
Yeah, I would- especially their direct reports and their.
You know, my son, oh, sorry.
Hold on. What if we started that then with the phrase, reflecting on your past experience,
Yeah.
describe,
Okay,
that work?
yep.
Okay.
That sounds like a teacher.
No, that's good. But John Peter, who has a lot of, his students do a lot of writing, and he can tell first, second sentence if it's AI or not. I mean, it's so apparent. They're not that,
And you
they're not
also
that
know
smooth
people
yet.
and how they answer their
Yeah.
questions.
It's getting really
And if they
good.
don't write like they talk,
And I would,
We don't know how these guys talk.
yes.
I would like to see us have a writing prompt on in-person interview day, which would be with equipment that can't connect to the internet, so it has to be their own writing. They can't cheat at all. And I can't tell you what I would use as the question because it would give it away,
Oh,
but
I've got some questions.
it's a really good one.
Yeah, I have some questions we can use. So that would be fine on the finalists. Okay, now comes the big one.
Okay.
we've done all the big
Involvement of stakeholders in the interviews. Now, I know Keith kind of said how you've done it before.
No, I need how we've done it.
How you,
I've
how,
done it,
yes, how you've done it before. What we need to determine, and here are the questions. The stakeholder interview team, is it going to be staff separated from parents and community, or are you going to have two different teams? Are you going to have any students on either one of the teams? And are they going to be board-appointed people, or are you going to just pass the waters and have people apply? And they have to say what group they're going to be in, and then you do a random draw, so you pick so many parents, so many whatever. Or with staff, are you going to have their supervisors say, here's what we, want to have? We have to talk about the demographics, because do you want some elementary staff, middle staff, high school staff, special ed? How many do you want? There's a lot of things to talk about there. So I'm going to open it up right now. And then the other
way
thing
they
is,
can
once
pick.
you decide on your stakeholder group, some people do the stakeholder group with the first interviews. So they would have to commit to 2 nights. And the reason why they do it with the first interviews, because it helps the board narrow down how these 6 people played out. The majority of people do the stakeholder interview when you have like your 3 finalists determined. And if you go with the process of Keith talked about it being a half-day experience with a tour or whatever, I would recommend doing the stakeholder group at that time. So only the board is involved in the, because you will have the applications and have all the background in.
What we did in both Sheboygan and here in Manitowoc is, like I said, it was a heterogeneous group, and each committee was made up of board. So like we've nominated people, we contacted those people and asked them if they would give up their half day so there were foundation, community leaders. And we had heterogeneous group, the only homogeneous group was the board. The reason for the heterogeneous, because a lot of the questions that were given to us, a lot of the questions that were provided to our committees kind of overlapped. And sometimes when you just have a single group of students, you'll find candidates that will talk to the kids, but yet talk to the parents in a different vein, yet talk to the staff in a different vein, yet talk to the community in a different vein.
Yeah.
So we had it all mixed. Some of the questions related, so the community or the committees could compare how these candidates were really answering the
Right.
question.
Right.
Were they just really trying to impress the students so they got their vote and not so much with the parents? Or, so the cross questioning really worked quite effective, and
Right.
it worked well with both
Or
districts.
did they ignore the students?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you want to determine your, who's on the stakeholder team? Because that will depend whether you are, in essence, if you're asking people to be on it and they say yes, That's an appointment that you're making as a board, and those appointments would be done in open session. They would be a resolution that would come here are the people being appointed.
I make a motion that the board appoint the members for the committees, for the interview committees.
Okay, do we have, I'll second, so that we can keep going. Okay, I think that's a good idea. I also think casting it out to everybody.
We gathered from the directors, we gathered from people that we've known they're important in the community, that value education. We gathered all that before we made those appointments. The directors were the introduction of every committee. They brought the candidate in, they introduced the candidate to the committee, and then started the process. Then they backed off and let the questions be asked by the committee members. And the directors didn't ask questions, the directors just introduced the candidate, got comfortable with them, and then went round robin like that.
Can you repeat your motion, please?
Pardon me?
Can you repeat your motion, please?
That the board select the members for the interview committees.
So how are you getting the names of who's interested? Because I heard,
We'll provide that. We talked to the directors. They gave us names of competent administrators, competent teachers, department chair people, that kind of stuff.
so
Would it be just
supervisor.
staff then? Is that,
Pardon me?
just staff? Is that right, or?
No community. We had a couple of lawyers on it. We had a couple of businessmen on it. We had foundation people represented. We had
Just a family member, people, or like people?
Sure, we had
Kids in the
three
district.
committees, each had a parent, PTA president on there.
Okay.
So they were getting the parent, the staff, the students, the whole thing, in every committee.
Okay. I like,
So, in your vision, every board member is responsible for bringing some names for the full board to
And
consider.
hitting community, staff. You've worked well with the teacher and you really have great success with this teacher, put their name down. It may be a member of a committee. I think that's important.
So I'm a little confused. Board members are bringing names to Chris.
And then the full board will vote on it.
And the full board would vote on it. So you will discuss the names in closed session because
Right.
you want to make sure you've got a good cross, and
Put 'em
then
in
you
their
will go,
committees.
put them in their committees, and then you will go into open session to approve who was selected. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
and we're selecting them for what now?
The 3 or 4 interview committees.
Yes.
That day when we have our finalists.
Is there merit, and I'm just feeling a little closed right now for the community, if somebody wanted to be involved, is there merit in saying us bringing those names in, but also if you would like to be part of this, put your name in?
I will, if this is the decision the board makes, I will be getting in touch tomorrow morning to OMT in the paper to say, we invite anyone who's interested to contact any or all board members about their interest. So that, yeah, we want to throw it open to everybody, but we also just can't.
We can't
use
have
that as
45
singles.
parents.
exactly.
Yeah, right.
Right,
Yes.
okay, so
So
this is what
it's a
we
way to
did
get
in
balance.
another district. It was on the website that if you wanted to be on a stakeholder team, they filled out a Google form that said their name, their information, that they were available that date, at that time, and what they represented. I'm an elementary parent, I'm a PTO, whatever. They put that information on so that the board had that information about who it was that was interested. The board also, if they talked to people, encouraged them, put your name in, we'd like to, but then it became on them whether or not they put their name in. And the same thing happened with teachers and staff. The principal said, if you're interested in being on a stakeholder committee, there's a form. The only thing we ran into is what you talked about, Matt. I'm a staff member and a parent and a community member. They were representing one perspective. So they had to choose whether they were going to represent staff or parent or community. Board.
Okay, is this for the first round of interviews,
Final.
the final?
Final round.
Yeah.
So we have time to get that information together.
Thank you.
They have to be within the MPST district boundaries if they're a community member,
Yeah,
taxpayer
Should
of
be.
the boundaries. You'd have to verify that unless they're a staff member. Is that what I would think would be, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's appropriate.
Gotta be a taxpayer, yeah.
Within the district.
yeah, otherwise they have no stake in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing that we decided is that the committees were to be no more than 7 to 9. So you'll have 15, 20 teachers that would like to be on it, but there's only 2 teachers per committee, interview committee.
Yeah.
So that may be 6 or 7 teachers, and maybe one of them's a department chair that knows the entire district versus one little school.
Right.
So you're gonna get a lot of people, but regardless, there's only 7 to 9 members on each committee. So that's not a lot, that's not overdosed with one profession.
So what are the committees?
Pardon me?
What
There
are
are staff.
3 or 4 or how many?
There are 3.
Well, no, they're cross-functional. So
Yeah.
there's some staff on each one, some parents on each one, and some community on each one.
Maybe 2, maybe 3.
Right.
We see.
But each one of those groups would be made up of 7 to 9 members.
Right.
Yes.
How many interviews are these poor people gonna have to go through?
2 or 3, is 3, I.
3 average.
Yeah, these are finalists. These are only the finalists.
Finalists,
Those are the
only
ones
the
that-
finalists.
So they've already gone through 30 other interviews to get here? We're gonna put them through 3 more, is that what it is?
The candidates?
This is more-
The superintendents?
Yeah, the superintendents.
Well, they only go through 2 with us.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you're saying. On that day, they probably go through 3.
Most
Yeah.
of them aren't gonna have a problem with
That's a big
that.
job,
They
dude.
like meeting with.
It was a big job, but
Yeah, they're
you
schmoozers.
put them through more rigmarole than I went through to be a police officer.
3, and then the final one with the board. That's
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
We can finish out the details of that when we do I can type some of that up, and when we do our meeting, where's my calendar? On March 13th, when we do selecting the candidates, we still have time to finalize the process. So I think, Chris, if you're asked by, the media or something, just say, we will be involving stakeholders through a community survey.
Yep.
We will, that will be coming out quickly, and there will be a process a little bit later on in the thing where community members can let us know if they're interested in participating when we interview the finalists. And then it would be like March 13th that's when people are going to know their schedule for April 4th. They're going to know whether they're available and that stuff. Then that gives you a chance at that March 13th meeting to go ahead and select who's going to be on your stakeholder team. So Lori, that one will probably have, part of it will have an open session when they actually approve who's going to be on the stakeholder team on the March 13th one, okay? Stakeholder team. Okay. The rest of it, or let's see, what's the next one? The next one is the applicant portal, like I said, will be open after midnight. You will be getting an email from Teresa Kimball, and she will give you information on how to access the files. The rest of the things are planning for the first interview, some of the tasks that we have to go through, the second interview, the final interview, and then the public announcement. On the back, there are some search-related tasks that you as a board need to decide who's going to work on. One is the superintendent job description. Lori sent me the current job description and the policies that go along with it. They're in your folder. Someone needs to look at that and determine if it's up to date. Because we would like to eventually have that posted as well in case someone says, well, what's your current job description?
Wouldn't that be human resources and?
Yeah, whoever you decide is going to work on that. But just, you don't want to leave it and wait and not have somebody address it. The other one is the superintendent contract review and compensation parameters. When we meet the next time, you're going to get a resource guide like this that has questions in it, reference questions. It's going to have comparable salaries in the area. I'm just going to pass this along. no one can keep this because this is my copy, but you can kind of see you'll be getting this specific to Manitowoc. It will also have your survey results in it. So that will be coming at your next board meeting. So you'll be able to, after that, look at your contract. Do you want to update any of it? Here's what the going rate is and that sort of thing. So you may want to decide who's going to work on that contract review and compensation. And bring it back to the board about what you're comfortable with, so that when you do have the candidate selected, if Chris is the person offering the job, he knows what he needs to negotiate. Okay? So I'm not sure if you want to talk about that now or not, if you want to decide who's going to work on that.
The contract?
Yeah,
I think we have time to.
okay, just don't lose sight of that.
Yeah, oh no.
Focus group of the board, we don't need to do that this evening because I'm going to send you a survey out. And that about brings us to the end of what we need to discuss tonight, unless there are some questions. You guys have been awesome. You have lots of great ideas. Let's see if we can pull this all together now.
Oh, sure.
Are
Anybody have
there
anything
any
else?
questions?
I didn't want to.
Any questions?
Nothing? I'm hearing none.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I would be looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Yeah.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
We actually got done sooner than 2 hours.
Hang on, we don't have a second yet. It may take-
second, I'll
It may
second.
take 10 minutes to get it. Okay, we have a second. All those in favor of adjournment say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Okay, and I told you you would have some fun, so you all worked very hard.